And the next one that I want to talk about, go back to my projects here, is called, it's a keyboard shortcuts demo. And the keyboard shortcuts external module, it's exactly what it says. It gives you keyboard shortcuts for your project and for REDCap. There are some global shortcuts. So if we look at the documentation here, it's pretty simple. Let me move this over so you can see. So for the global shortcuts, when you enable this, you can go to the home, REDCap home, or my project's control center, and you guys won't be able to go to the external modules manager, I don't believe, because you guys aren't administrators. These should work for everybody as far as I know. I need to, maybe somebody can test it for me, because since Terry and I and Colleen are administrators, sometimes we have features that apply to us, and it's hard for us to test if somebody else can't use the same functionality. So maybe these are only for us.
The control center won't work for them, but the other two would.
These two here? Gotcha. So
I've tried my project Alt2 and that worked.
Okay, cool. And I've noticed that sometimes when I do the shortcut, like if I go to Alt1 here in my project, sometimes if I want to, like, so let's say I want to go, or sorry, Alt2, Alt1 there and Alt2. Sometimes I've noticed that if I go through one shortcut, sometimes I have to click on the screen with the mouse and then do another shortcut, but it seems to be working just fine. But now that I have this project of keyboard shortcuts and I have it enabled for this project, then I should be able to use these project shortcuts as well. So if I do, I guess if I just push A, it should take me to add a record. If I push C, as long as I'm not in a field, if I push C, it takes me to the code book. D goes to the record status dashboard.
Mine's not working, those buttons.
Do you
literally press the button?
Yeah, so do you have the,
press A or
do you have the mod, so you have to have the module enabled in the project.
Oh.
Yeah.
I missed that part.
So for these,
I do not have that yet.
I know to me it makes more sense for if it's like you enable this module, then everybody can use it. But I guess they don't want to throw people off if all of a sudden they start typing and their REDCap starts shooting off to different shortcuts. So you're limited that way. So you'd have to enable it here in your external modules for keyboard shortcuts, and there's not really anything to configure. So most of it is just looking at the documentation, and if you want these shortcuts here, they're right here in this view documentation link. So, if you wanted to go, I don't have any records in this one, so I can't go to next or previous. But if I go to, if you want to go to the designer, this would be helpful for us to have, because I mean, Terry and I, we're always jumping into like the control center or the modules or that kind of thing, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So if we have REDCap open and we just have to hit Alt-0 to go to the control center to add a record or add a user, it's a lot easier.
Manny?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
I'm not seeing that external module in the external module page. Did you say that already, or?
That could be my fault. Let me get in there right now and enable it so that you can see it. 1 second.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, when we enable these modules, we have to go in and configure them to have them show up on the list. And sometimes we don't do them right away because we want to be able to vet them to make sure that they're good for people to use versus them having to go through us to enable them. But this one seems like pretty innocuous, and Terry will probably just make it available for everybody.
Yeah, it should be available now. I'm glad that you mentioned it, Marcel, that I could get it added. So it should be, if you refresh or whatever, you should be able to find it now. Because this is, I agree with Manny. This is a nice one. I would have certainly added this. Just as a quick note, sometimes they have. I mean, I try to search like every couple weeks or so and see if there's anything new out there. And if I see something that would be of interest, and as you can see, we have over 100 of these now. So, I mean, I always think that there's some new functionality that you might benefit from. So I try to add them. But then, like Manny says, some of them I have to think a little bit about, because if I think that there could be an issue for you, then I would prefer that we just check them first. But he's right. This is one of those, and I didn't even. We've been busy, so I probably didn't even think about this. So I'm glad he's demoing it, and I'm glad you mentioned that you couldn't see it, so we can get it on. And maybe this weekend I'll try and go through the modules again and see what I have not made available to you just by viewing. That was a nice feature that allowed us to open them up to you for viewing, rather than having to have you constantly go to our web page and go through all that. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. And that's a good point too, Terry, because there's one module that I think would be helpful, but it's kind of dangerous. It's like a report generator where, somebody enters data or certain criteria gets met, and an email or a report gets generated and then emailed to people. But in the module itself, it's like, warning, this could leak PHI. Make sure that the people who are making these reports know that they're sending it out, and that when you make these reports, that if they have PHI and all that stuff. And so it's just easier for us to not even enable that module, as nice as it would be to generate reports automatically. It just keeps us out of trouble. So this is the.
I just give it some thought, downstream, and sometimes it gets by me and I forget to come back to it.
Yeah.
Which is my bad, but he's right. That kind of thing, I'm much less willing to activate push out to you right away until we've thought about it a little bit.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it for the shortcuts. It's not very complicated. Probably take a little bit of time to get used to, what they are, write them down somewhere and practice them.